Welcome to this
recording in progress.
Hybrid side event on the governance of climate and technological risk in transboundary water bodies. My name is Niels Vlaanderen. I am the co-chair of the task force on water and climate of the Water Convention. And I'm working in the Dutch Ministry of Water and Infrastructure. And I was asked to moderate this session, but first they asked me to introduce this session, of course. So let me start with that. Disasters and climate change impacts are mostly felt through the water cycle. Last year we have seen deadly and costly flooding induced economic losses of more than 17 billion dollars in the Henan province of China, and more than 20 billion dollars in Germany. And drought affected many parts of the world, like in countries like Canada, United States, Iran, Afghanistan, Turkey, and even more are there to mention. Consequently, extreme weather events combined with conflicts, economic shocks, and COVID-19 pandemic undermined decades of progress towards improving food security globally. In addition, extreme weather events even resulted in millions of internally displaced people. For example, in China, more than 1.4 million people. In Vietnam, more than 500,000 people. And the Philippines, also more than 500,000 people. Considering that 60% of the world's freshwater flows is in shared basins, transboundary water cooperation is essential for climate and multi-hazard risk management. This transboundary water cooperation contributes to the attainment of many other SDGs in addition to SDG 6, such as the climate action, health, poverty reduction, food security, ecosystem protection, and peace. In fact, transboundary cooperation evolved in a lot of basins from joint action on disaster risk reduction. For example, transboundary basins organizations play a key role in improving joint flood and drought management, preventing accidental water pollution, and helping to save human life, well-being, infrastructure, and natural capital. Climate change creates new challenges for cooperation between the riparian countries. However, it also provides an opportunity for enlarging cooperation in transboundary basins. In this respect, it has become increasingly important for countries to follow a multi-hazard approach to disaster risk reduction. Integration of multi-risk approach into water management in national and transboundary settings and strong governance can be effective solutions to build disaster resilience and climate change adaptation. To this end, countries could use legal instruments such as the Water Convention and the Industrial Accident Convention. The Industrial Accident Convention is a recognized legal instrument for technological disaster risk reduction. It helps countries to integrate national policies and strategies to improve disaster risk governance, enhance resilience, and multi-hazard risk management. The Water Convention, for almost 30 years, provides a unique and intergovernmental framework for transboundary cooperation in climate change adaptations, including floods and drought management. For capacity building, developing guidances, exchange of experience, and projects on the ground. In 2016, this Water Convention became a global instrument. Activities on climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction within the framework of the Industrial Accident and Water Conventions support countries in implementing other international commitments, such as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the United Nations Framework on the Convention on Climate Change, and the Paris Agreement, as well as the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. I would like to thank the government of Armenia, the UNECE Secretaries of the Water and Industrial Excellence Conventions, as well as the UNDRR Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia, for taking the lead in organizing this event. I hope that today's side event will help to understand better how to address coherently climate change and disaster risk reduction issues in a transboundary perspective. And on a positive note, to inspire joint action we need today, and to discuss this in the global platform on DRR at Bali, but also next year when there is in March the UN 2023 Water Conference, co-hosted by Tajikistan and the Netherlands, where water, disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation will be discussed. And most importantly, we call for parties and organizations to contribute with commitments as part of the water action agenda. Now, I'd like to start with our panelists to introduce them. We have today Ms. Armine Ayrapatian. She's co-chair of the Intergovernmental Working Group on European Forum on the DRR Roadmap 2021-2030, the Ministry of Emergency Situation in Armenia. We have Mr. Laszlo Palatonyi, Priority Area Coordinator, EU Strategy for the Danube region. We have Mr. Buteng Sanoksoy, Director of Planning Division, Mekong River Commission, and Mr. Bob Alva, Director, Water Resource Planning, Water Resources Commission of Ghana. But before we start with the presentation, I was asked to also involve the audience to let them be more active. And we start with a Zoom poll, if I'm not mistaken.
Excuse me, this is for me already. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Niels. Yes.
No, we're asked to ask the audience to fill in the Zoom poll first. So just a little bit patience now, and that's on your screen. We ask the audience to fill in the Zoom poll on 2 questions, and then we go to the presentation. So a bit of patience, please. So the 2 questions, we ask your input. Are you using multi-hazard risk approaches in your country to implement the Sendai framework? And secondly, are you actively fostering transboundary cooperation across borders or water basins? So I still see people still answering the questions, so we take a bit of time. Okay, I think we should stop now. So what we see is that for the multi-hazard risk approaches, that it's now almost a bit more than half are implementing these, but quite a group is not yet. So I think there is still room for improvement. And I see on a positive note that there is a lot of, well, almost more than 80% is fostering transboundary cooperation across the border in their basin. So I think that's for this moment already a positive outcome. But let now start to the presenters. So I'd like to start with Armenia, to Ms. Armine. I'd first like to start with a question. As co-chair of the Intergovernmental Working Group, could you please explain how the European Forum on DRR Roadmap 2021-2030 is an important policy instrument encouraging strong governments and multi-hazard risk management? And how does Armenia foster the elements set out in the roadmap and the implementation of legal instruments like the UNECE Industrial Accidents Convention? So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear dear Chair. It is my honor to represent right now the work that has been done with the participation of many countries and with co-hosting with a dear colleague from Sweden, Jeanette Edwards. During 1 year, an entire group of specialists, around 100 specialists, have participated in the preparation of this document. With your permission, I would like to share my screen now to start a short presentation on the EFDRR roadmap to give you a kind of an overview of what kind of a roadmap it is, what kind of a leading document that it can be, and how it can help us in creation best strategies and leading documents. So I share my screen with your permission. I hope you see it. I can continue. You can see it, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, first of all, this is really important to understand that all of the disaster risk reduction activities can not only in the European region, but also beyond, they can benefit from this roadmap, because it has been written not only specifically for a European and Central Asian region, but also for anyone who would prefer to use its strengths. So what it helps for, what it is useful for, is it is supporting regional, national, and local disaster risk reduction strategies and actions by identifying shared gaps and challenges, and gives opportunities to enhance disaster resilience in the region. It highlights the effective arrangement of national and local sharing for good practices, pathways, and opportunities for more informed gender. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but the interpreters are complaining that they cannot hear you well and they cannot proceed with the interpretation, unfortunately. Can you please just remove the mic a little bit away from your mouth?
To remove the mic?
No, I'm talking about the mic, just to push it away from you just a bit.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can they hear me now better?
You can proceed. Hopefully they can.
Oh,
if they reach out to me, I'm gonna sorry if I interrupt you again.
I will try to go a little bit slower and a little bit more understandable for the interprets. I'm really sorry for that, but whatever, they can see also my screen. I will hold on the information that is on the screen so they can use the presentation text as well. My dear colleagues, well, going beyond the benefits that roadmap can help, telling about the roadmap, how it can help, importantly, it promotes and supports systems for regional collaboration and shared learning. Here, excuse me, please. I would like to emphasize that the roadmap is constructed with a very understandable and clear structure. It has 4 main priority areas and 16 common action areas. The first priority area, as you can see, understanding and communicating existing, emerging, and future systemic risks. And it has common actions, what we can do to meet this goal. Invest in and apply inclusive and accessible approaches and tools, and disaggregated data to identify, understand existing, emerging, and future disaster risks, particularly based on future climate-related scenarios. Advanced monitoring of disaster risk experiences and lessons learned, including understanding and communicating disproportionate impacts on the people with disabilities, different genders, and age or marginalized population groups. Improve coherence with and leverage global agendas to address future climate change, disaster risks, and related socioeconomic challenges at all levels, and build inclusive and accessible systems to address systemic risks. The second priority area is inclusive and collaborative systems for governance and decision making, and it goes for institutionalization of the multi-stakeholder inclusive approaches for governance at all levels, and systematize scientific and other evidence-based decision making, strengthen collaborative and transboundary systems for capacity building, and support effective and inclusive protection and safety nets. The priority area 3, supporting investments in resilience, is also very important, and you know that it is for investing in protecting critical infrastructure, leveraging transparent and sustainable investments, strengthen national and local budgets, and establish standards and tools for sustainable financing and investment at all levels. And the fourth priority area is preparedness for response and resilience recovery. Invest in accessible multi-hazard and early warning systems, strengthening gender responsive, age sensitive and inclusive preparedness for complex emergencies at all levels. Apply lessons identified from the COVID-19 pandemic and develop new accessible and inclusive disaster resilient tools for building back better that address existing, emerging and future risks. What I would like to emphasize also about the roadmap is that for each priority area and common actions, the gaps are also discussed. The roadmap is very concise. The gaps and challenges and also way forward is and the future transformation actions are also envisaged and discussed here, and they are all based on the whole roadmap construction is based on emphasizing the enabling approaches for a disaster resilient European and Central Asian region. But of course, as I said, we cannot state only that these approaches are only unique for these regions. They can be taken beyond the territorial bounds. And these are these 5 enabling approaches: the all of the society approach, inclusive and responsive approaches to accelerate understanding and investment in disaster risk reduction and resilience. The coherent approach is to leverage the disaster risk reduction agenda. This is, I think, important point for today's discussion, and improve coherence with other global agendas to risk-inform future climate change, environment, biodiversity, sustainable development, equity and inclusion, green and other policies, strategies, investments, and action agendas at all levels. This is important. Another important enabling approach, the system-wide approaches to protect critical infrastructure systems and investments against future climate and disaster risk, including during the recovery. Evidence-based approaches to risk-informed policies, strategies, plans, regulatory frameworks, decisions, and actions. And finally, regional, local, and contextualized approaches to support transboundary, national, and local policy and strategic coherence, investments, and collaboration. Just to conclude, because we have a very short presentation for the roadmap, I would like to say that these following groups are represented with a certain number of people who were responsible for participation and creation of the roadmap. This is the UNDRR Roadmap Working Group with 15 members, European Commission with 8 members, UN country teams and agencies, regional and sub-regional organizations, national and local government.
Ms. Armenia, you are muted, unfortunately.
I think I have finished my presentation, but I hope you could hear the last part of my presentation. Did you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, so the last 2 sentences we were missed.
Well, the last two sentences, if you hear me, I can continue saying
Yes.
that, yes, that these on your screen, you see the groups who benefited, who contributed to creation of the European Forum Roadmap. Thank you very much for your attention, and we will keep on the discussion, and I will be ready to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Armenia. And I like now to turn to Laszlo Balatoni. I will ask him the question: how do you address disaster risk management in the Danube River Basin Management Plan? And why is the multi-hazard, multi-risk management approach necessary and important to build better disaster resilience and adapt to the consequences of climate change in the Danube River Basin? Laszlo, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah, sorry, it was unmuted. So it's my great pleasure on behalf of the EU strategy of the Danube region to summarize all of the activities that's happening. On behalf of the EU strategy as the environmental risk priority area coordinator, I just prepared also some slides and activities that is focusing on the climate change, disaster risk reduction, and civil protection activities. So I remember that there was some information about Hungary, but of course I prepared also information that the Danube River Basin is the most international river basin in the world, covering also 19 countries. The total area is almost 1 million square kilometers. And we all know, and it was also mentioned, that how is important the transnational, transboundary activities. And if we are talking about the water-related risk and other type of risk, it is quite important to cooperate countries, especially for Hungary. There are 7 countries, neighboring countries, so it's quite essential. But of course, also on the river basin level, it is more important. So the second largest river basin, 19 countries, but of course, at the same time, the ecosystem is also are highly valuable and environmental, economical, historical, and social in terms. But of course, they are also subject to increase the pressure of the serious streets pollution from agriculture, industry, and the cities as well. So those are the geographical information from Hungary. But of course, through the centuries, Danube countries also suffered from many disastrous floods. In recent years, major flood also occurred in the Danube countries, 2002, 6, 10. But maybe also you remember, but Danube countries definitely remember the 2013 flood was one of the biggest flood in the last 100 years. But of course, also 2014, the Balkan flood also happened, in casualties, also damages, economic activities, and many activities as well. But at the same time, we are also suffering for the water scarcity and drought event almost at the same time. But during these days also, we are quite close to the water scarcity and drought event happen to the cities. On the catchment scale, you can see which area is exposed to the flooded. For example, a medium probability, low probability, many countries, and they are especially Hungary, many area, and also Croatia is exposed to the flooded area. You can see also the numbers of the total population what is can be affected in case of the flooded. Those maps was in line of the reviewing procedure of the EU flood directives, and just now published the new informations on the flood related risk as well. I also prepared some information on behalf of the EU strategy of the Danube region. You can see many macro-regional strategies can be found in the EU, but yeah, the EU strategy was adopted by the European Commission in 2010, and the strategy was jointly developed by the Commission together with the Danube countries and to address the challenges together The Danube strategy seeks to create synergies and coordination between the existing policies, innovative taking place across the Danube region. For example, the environmentalist priority areas, each of the priority areas coordinated by 2 countries. You can see 4 pillars, 12 priority areas, and each of the priority areas coordinated by 2 countries. For example, the priority area 5, the environmentalist priority area, is focusing on the floods and of course also the negative floods, the low and water scarcity, and focusing on many other related activities in the objective of the climate change adaptation, objectives of the Flyer Directive, Seveso, Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, and supporting the EU civil protection mechanism as well. You can see some of our actions and targets as well. In 2 years ago, we was also updated our strategical plans in line with the climate change and in line with the other changes as well. So, for example, just to give some examples, what we are doing and what we are focusing on behalf of the priority area, we are providing sufficient support to develop the exceptional risk management plans for different hazards. There are also many sub-activities were defined in the reviewed action plans, also targets. So I don't want to go detailed because those minutes are not enough to speak more detailed about that one. The second action is focusing on the priority area to have the basin-wide regional forecasting system. We all know that the preparedness and response activities is quite important to have to share the hydrological system, and information is quite important in terms of the transboundary activities as well. The third one is strengthening the disaster prevention and preparedness activities among the governmental and non-governmental organizations, because we see that in some cases it's not enough to involve the governmental parties and actors. So it's quite important because the locals, the non-governmentals are in the place, so we can save time if we involve those at the same time as well. Human impacts also we are focusing on, and of course also the climate change related activities as well. And there was also reviewed, as I mentioned, our action plans. Mainly the environmentalist is focusing on the water related risk, but Hungary established and initiated to establish the disaster management working group. So we try to focus on the civil protection and the disaster risk reduction activities. So it was a discussion among the countries, and we see that many events happening in the Danube countries in line with the climate change. So nowadays we can also, Danube countries frequently meet, for example, earthquake, we can hear about that. Also wildfires and many things happen, but has not been happened in the last 20 years or something like that. So we had to also change our mind and thinking, and also to work on the political level as well. So, for example, the disaster management working group is objective to get the discussion activities concerning disaster preparedness and response activities. For example, development of recommendation for volunteering organizations, because in some cases are missing, or it's used to be improved, that one. And for example, supporting the initiatives of the policy level by developing the minimum standards, for example, for civil protection organizations and fire and rescue services, and also identifying existing practices, procedures to minimize duplications, because we see that in some cases many duplications can be happen. So from the Danube countries at the moment, it's also kind of volunteering to join to that expert group. From now, nine countries are our contracting parties, and 25 parties we having from the governmental and non-governmental organizations as well. So how we deal with the other type of risk? We use many different sources, also from the EU and also from the other project supports as well. So I just would like to give some of our project initiatives. We have many strategical projects on our board. You can see we also use some DG Echo sources, Horizons, and other sources as well, focusing on, for example, as I mentioned, earthquake, wildfires, and many natural disasters as well. You can see on informations on our website, and those projects what has been mentioned, focusing on the preparedness response activities, some of them on training and exercises and capacities as well. And you can see also the countries that has been involved into the strategies cooperation as well. So just turning to one of my last slide. I also think but we definitely need to have strategies from many risk as well. As I mentioned, for example, the flood directives and all of the flood risk related maps has been just reviewed on behalf of the Danube countries, but also those procedures are in line with the other EU countries as well. And also we had to use and think on many different risks as well, take into account, and we should have to have and focusing on, after the realizing strategic goals, we must focusing on the development of the project as well. So it's quite important. And if we are having updated informations from our risk as well, we should have to focusing on how to minimize the risk, of course. And I really think that in some cases also the non-structural measures are quite important. So not just only focusing on the real works, on the structural work as well. So those activities should have to really go hand in hand. And as I mentioned, the strengthening the preparedness and response activities is also quite important, as I mentioned, and also the involvement and strengthen the involvement of governmental and non-governmental organizations as well, because in some cases we can save some time if we involve them in time. So I just I think used all of my time, so thank you so much for your attention. Those activities, the ICPDR activities mainly focusing on the flood related risk and water related risk, and how we try to implement the other type of risk. We use on different level policy and also bringing something to the field, policy development not only, and other project initiatives as well. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Laszlo, and thank you for inspiring us with this example of transboundary cooperation and put into practice also what was the call of Armenia to create coherence between the different examples. And of course, it shows easy, but I know it's not. But I hope also, well, let's wait for a bit to discuss a bit further on this. But I think this is nicely put together, the introduction by Armenia, where we see, okay, this is the idea, but how to do that in practice, I think the Danube is inspiring.
Niels,
I'd like now to turn. Sorry?
Can I say something before you continue? I want to say that although it was envisaged that here in this Mengwi hall I will be all alone, but I have been joined by many colleagues from different organizations, as I see. So you are now not only, as we said, we are in the hybrid format, and we have colleagues from various organizations, and I invite them also to think whatever ideas they have or questions they may note, and then I will proceed. I will give to you to announce to our virtual audience. Thank you very much. I just wanted to greet our colleagues here in the room.
Great, thank you for this interruption. I like these kind of interruptions. So this helps also to really make it a hybrid, and I know it's sometimes difficult, but well, first continue with the presentations. So then I'd like to invite Mr. Buteng Sanoksoin. I hope I pronounced your name well, sorry if not, but I'd like to ask you, how do you integrate disaster risk reduction into the Mekong climate change adaptation strategy and action plan and their implementation on the ground? So how also make implementation possible? I'm curious to learn from you.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good morning there.
Yes, thanks.
On behalf of the Mekong River Commission Secretariat, I would like to share my presentation with you about the Mekong Climate Change Adaptation Strategy and Action Plan. So, Mekong River Commission River Commission is international government organization joining between the member countries, including Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Based on the 95 Mekong Agreement, we implement the main that agreement to as the mandate for our implementation. Lower Mekong Basin country identified among the most vulnerability country to climate change in the world. 2020, MRC Council requested the MRC Secretariat to develop the Climate Change Adaptation Initiative aimed at the basin scan analysis of the climate change impact on water resource. So this climate change impact in the Lower Mekong Basin, we found that the temperature increased, low flow and fluctuation on the mainstream and its tributaries, flow less than monthly minimum average in the mainstream. So especially the flow into the Tonle Sap, Cambodia is quite late sometimes when the rainfall is come late. And some years the water level could reach Tonle Sap peak as average. So, and also the flood and drought sometimes more frequent and severe effect on agriculture and impact the storage of water. And also in terms of the function of watershed, when the climate change, we found that the drought, we faced some watershed function is lost. We faced some drought in the water source in the small stream and in watershed area. So this example and scenario prediction until 2060, we just catch some hydrological station to analyze some change in terms of the river flow, water level, wet season duration, and dry season duration. Sometimes duration of the wet season is short. Yeah. This is the main priorities, strategy priority for the massive like a Mekong climate change adaptation strategy and action plan. We have 7 strategy priority include here, you can see in the mainstreaming climate change, adaptation into the national and regional policy program and plan. Regional and international cooperation and partnership is one strategies. Preparation of transboundary gender sensitive adaptation option, and access to the adaptation fund is one strategy. Monitoring, data collection and sharing, capacity development for climate change adaptation strategy and plan. And last one, the outreach of MRC product on the climate change and adaptation. This is the main priority strategy. Continue to action plan for climate change adaptation in the Mekong Basin. As I mentioned earlier, we have 7 strategies priority, And we have 18 activities included in that strategy. The first one, mainly mainstreaming the MASAP into the regional and national activity of priority, and monitoring system on climate change adaptation, access to climate fund, develop transboundary adaptation projects. So we have one joining project between Cambodia and Thailand on the flood and drought management, cooperation and partners. And we have other activities in line with the MRC strategic plan and basin development plan 2021-2025, so that it includes on the support option for water resource management, including increasing natural and constructed water storage, support water securities. And also we promote the irrigation guidelines to development opportunity for adaptation, climate change, improve food security. And we also improve the cropping pattern that can be adapted in the climate change adaptation. Support irrigation technologies for application in the lower Mekong Basin, produce manual user of the technology for practical use. And also we improve the drought management guidelines for implementation, including the groundwater study, and also joining coordination, infrastructure, water infrastructure coordination, operation, and support the opportunity for flow management, increase and reduce the impact, health, mitigate flood and droughts. So this is the main activities, and we are doing in the lower Mekong Basin. For MASAP implementation and action plan, we mainstream integrate the climate change and adaptation into the MRC sectoral strategy and BDS, and mainstream MASAP perspective into the flood and drought management, and in order to mitigate impact. So MRC also produce some products related to disaster risk management and can predict in the future for the impact in the lower Mekong Basin. So a range of the climate change scenario were analyzed and selected for the lower Mekong Basin. Basin-wide assessment of the impact of the climate change scenario on water and water-related resource was done. Historical trend of the hydroclimatics condition, including extreme event, were statistically analyzed. Specific method technology were developed to assess the climate change impact on the flood and drought pattern. So this some product we already submitted to the member countries. This is also adaptation strategies, including reduction uncertainties and enhancing awareness of the potential impacts. Joint planning to avoid further loss of the floodplain storage. Ensure floodplain development is resilient to and support the beneficent flooding. Protecting watershed through better management, to manage runoff of the groundwater recharge, coordination operation of reservoir, as I mentioned earlier, ensuring timely and accuracy forecast and warning to potential affect community, enabling insurance and post recovery measure. This adaptation strategies. So as I mentioned earlier, we have one joining project, transboundary project between Cambodia and Thailand in a sub-catchment area in the Mekong tributaries. So this we found the severe or significant flood and drought occur and socio-economic development need to share information between both countries so that we have some support budget to this project in order to provide some direction and adaptation activity for both countries and in this catchment community. So it's in my presentation. Sorry for maybe not very clear for my talking, especially for my English. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't excuse yourself for your English. I think it was perfectly. It was perfect. I only have one question for clarification, if I may, and that I did this slide with the climate change adaptation with the strategy and the activities. There I see the 7 priority strategies and also 18 activities. And my question is, are these all at the level of the Mekong River Commission, or are they also national activities? And secondly, you have this example of a joint project, transboundary between Cambodia and Thailand, and are there more examples in the area?
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. Actually, this strategy and activities we provide to member countries to further implement and support. We provide direction to the member countries and suggest member country to adapt to implement these adaptation activities to reduce the impact of the risk, disaster risk, and adaptation for further resilient. In terms of the joint projects between Cambodia and Thailand, we learned that this very good project sharing information and provide some information is good projects, and we try to adapt this project to other share catchment area between Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, especially 3 sub-area joining between main tributaries, namely Mekong and Sepok, flow from Vietnam side, and Laos side flow to the Cambodia side, so that we will have our future this project adapt the lesson learned from joint project between Cambodia and Thailand. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this clarification. I'd like to ask you to stop sharing your screen if you can, because then also
Yes,
the other presentation can be somehow.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. So, it's still there.
Mr. Bounting, can you please do it from the Zoom meeting window? Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
So then I'd like to turn to the last presenter, Mr. Bob Alva, Director of Water Resources Planning, Water Resources of the Commission in Ghana. And I'd like to ask him, which challenges do you face in mining and accidental water pollution as a result of increasing extreme weather events in Ghana? And how do you address these challenges both naturally and in the transboundary context? Mr. Bob Alva, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. It's still early morning here also in Ghana. Briefly, let me share. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen sharing, my presentation.
Yes, we can see it. Okay,
great. So I'm going to present on the challenges Ghana faces in terms of accidental mining events and also transboundary, challenges that we face. Ghana is one of the countries that share international water courses. The main one of them is the Volta Basin, and Ghana is the downstream country. So we receive almost all the impacts from all the countries, the other 5 countries. Approximately 20% of our surface water resources come from the Volta Basin system through Mali, Burkina Faso, Togo, Ivory Coast, and then Benin. But we are also an upstream country to 2 other basins that flow through Ghana to Togo and Ivory Coast. So when it comes to transboundary issues, Ghana is deeply committed to establishing mechanisms for cooperation in the management of our international water rivers. And this is because we receive almost all the issues in other countries that flows all the way to Ghana. So currently we are members to transboundary arrangements. That is, the main one is the Volta Basin Authority, which is a regional body. We are currently developing mechanisms to cooperate with Togo and Ivory Coast, which are downstream to our other transboundary basins. And we are also members to the UN Transboundary Water Agreements 1992 and 1997. So we involve, heavily in transboundary issues. One of the main challenges that we face in our transboundary river systems, especially the Volta Basin system, is flooding. Ghana is frequently flooded every year due to, of course, climate change impacts, but also the operations of the dam in Burkina Faso, which is an upstream country. So in the northern part of Ghana, almost every year we have destruction in terms of livelihoods, property, and most especially agriculture. The northern part of Ghana is the main part of Ghana that produces food crops. And in almost every year, farmers' crops are washed away, and that has resulted in a lot of importation of food to the country. We are not also spared by the other extreme side of the water, which is droughts. In the dry season, we have a lot of water abstraction upstream for the purposes of irrigation. And Ghana, again, suffers quite a lot of drought. Water for animals, water for domestic in about 2 to 3 months of the year becomes a challenge. This is also due to climate change, but also exacerbated by the activities of our upstream countries. In terms of mining, mining has become one of the main land use activities in Ghana. And this is due because most farmers are not able to do farming any longer because of the flood situations and the drought events. And therefore, almost all the people who used to do farming now get involved in mining. And they do not mine according to the guidelines or regulations. And this normally results in a lot of chemicals, especially mercury, leaking into our water bodies. And this only does not affect Ghana, but also the other downstream countries that share the same river basin systems with us. So Ghana has, in order to address most of these concerns, we have a joint technical committee for integrated water resource management with Burkina Faso, which tries to look at issues relating to transboundary coming from Burkina Faso. And this is not intergovernmental cooperation. This is at the basin level, where we have 2 basins cooperating on issues that affect each country. We also try to promote sharing of data and information to avoid conflict, especially the way the dam in Burkina Faso is operated. Ghana demands that we have full knowledge of the water levels and then the rate of spillage that will inform us in also running our flood forecasting models to be able to inform our communities in time before there's a disaster. So that joint committee has been working from the White Volta Basin and the Nakambe Basin in Burkina Faso. And we've also established one for the Black Volta Basin and the Mohun Basin Authority in Burkina Faso. We are also a member of the VBA, which is a Volta Basin Authority, which is formally established in somewhere 2009 by the 6 European countries. And the authority is responsible to oversee all arrangements in regards to the development of the water resources within the basin, and then the potential benefits that it may have. We promote cooperation between countries of issues relating to water resources, and also the Tano and Bia Basin, which Ghana is an upstream country, is still under development. Now, for some of the charters, the Volta Basin Authority just came up with a charter, which is supposed to enhance cooperation among the countries and also look at issues of data exchange and also to authorize planning in terms of the development of the water resources. One aspect of it that is still not fully developed is the pollution control. We have not been able to establish the standards for pollution control from each country. But for now, we are looking at the flows in terms of volumes and then infrastructure development within the basin. So some of the lessons that Ghana has learned in managing some of these situations is that the intergovernmental level of cooperation is not as effective as the decentralized mechanisms within the transboundary cooperation mechanisms, where you have smaller basins cooperate with their neighboring basin authority. And in this way, they are able to take measures to reduce impacts on downstream countries. It has also been, one lesson is the information sharing is key for transboundary countries because that informs Ghana way before any floods happens. And since we started the information sharing mechanism with Burkina Faso, especially the company that operates the dam, it has helped in minimizing the impacts when we have the information early enough And we also think that joint projects in disaster management has also helped because Ghana and Togo has developed a flood early warning system together. And because of that, we cooperate very well on the OT river basin system. And it has also given us information to be able to manage floods way before time. So thank you very much. These are some of the challenges that Ghana faces in terms of transboundary systems and the measures we put in place to try to mitigate the impacts of these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for sharing your lessons. I think they're quite spot on, and they look quite simple, but a lot of things has to be done to reach that. And the importance of sharing information, it can't be stressed enough because it's not so difficult, but before you have to arrange it and how it possibly, in positive sense, can affect and help downstream countries. I think that's important. But also what I learned from your presentations, the importance of decentralized mechanisms. So on the more or less, maybe I calculate the working implementation level, when you have this cooperation, it is easier to let it work.
That's right.
And also there to create joint projects, which is the basis of cooperation, of course. That gives us the inspiring dynamic which you can use in transboundary cooperation. So thank you for these messages. So these were the presentations, and now we go to the second part of this session, and we are more looking to the future challenges. And for this, we have a panel discussion with our presenters. But meanwhile, before I start with them, I also ask you all to make use of the chat to post your questions, and Armenia can help us with questions from the room. And before I give the panelists the floor, I'd like to start again with a Zoom poll questions to also involve you and to share with you your thoughts on what you think are the key challenges of multi-hazard risk approach to disaster risk reduction. So I would say we take 1 or 2 minutes. Still answers coming in, so last 10 seconds, and then I will end this poll, and I ask the technical staff to present the results, which I forgot the first time, so sorry for that. Okay. So Is it possible for the technical staff to share the result of the poll?
You would like to start the last poll as well, or share the results for this one?
Share this one, please.
Can I please our co-host not to please mess up with anything?
Okay, maybe I did push the button.
Can you please confirm that you can see the shared results?
I see the overall results, yeah.
Yes, for the second poll, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I will stop sharing once you tell me so.
Yeah. Okay, well, what I see is that all the aspects which are mentioned have quite some support. So there's not one who really stands out, although the multi-stakeholder cooperation has the most votes in this poll. So okay, let's continue. Armenia, you want to interrupt?
We don't. Oh, do we see it? I don't see the results of the poll. That's strange. I wanted to find out where are the results.
Let me share them one last time, please.
Yeah.
Do you see them in the Zoom meeting window?
No.
No.
I'm looking for. Does the other participants see? Only me? I don't see that. We don't see it on the screen here, shared in Mangui Hall. I don't know. Well, maybe it will be presented later. We don't want to take much time from it.
Agree. So let's continue.
Okay, continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here they are. Okay.
Ah.
Here they are. Thank you. Thank you.
But I told already a bit what was on there. So let's continue with the panel. And I'd like to ask you briefly, also because of time, to give us a short answer to the question you posed, and then we have some time to have a few questions from the chat. We'll ask you. I'd like to start with Armin. How can countries make best use of the legal and policy in fostering multi-risk approaches in disaster risk reduction?
Thank you for the question. I think that the countries should benefit from existing legal and policy instruments which address industrial, chemical, and NATEC risks. For instance, this can be Industrial Accidents Convention, the Water Convention, EFDRR Roadmap, to build coherent disaster resilience policies, strategies, and approaches. These instruments really can provide countries with policy guidance and technical assistance to advance policy making, enhance disaster risk governance, and strengthen transboundary cooperation and mitigate industrial and chemical disaster risks. And this will be in line with Sendai framework and the SDGs. And as well, I wanted to say that for more like emphasize Industrial Accidents Convention, which is recognized as legal instrument for technological disaster risk reduction. It can play also a vital role in risk reduction and management of technological hazards and related risks. Its tool and guidance materials are applicable in reality globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also, thank you for your concise answer. That really helps also to spare time for our discussion later. Now to Laszlo, how has the integration of water-related climate and technological disaster risk transformed your approach to river basin management in the Danube?
It's quite not easy to give a complete answer for your question, of course. But yeah, I really think and believe that, as I mentioned, the Water Framework Directive and Flood Directive, it was mentioned that in every 6 years, EU countries should have to be revised their plans. And as I mentioned, those procedures just finished now in this year. So I think every reviewing procedure make an opportunity to integrate what you mentioned, all of the best available technologies, informations, and new disasters what can be happened. And also we can see new trends as well. So I think every reviewing procedure and cycle makes an opportunity for that. And I also checked all of the maps and all of the document what is written, and many improvements has been written in the Water Framework Directive, in the River Basin Management Plan as well. So I really think that many improvements are going on the Danube River Basin countries, among the countries. For example, I think the raising awarenesses as well. Also the improvements of, for example, the partitioners also improving and also facilitate the transnational network building and knowledge transfer as well. So we have some dedicated project that is focusing on the exchange of experts program as well. Many improvements has been happened, was how as I mentioned in the emergency response activities from among the countries from the Danube River Basin. So I think many things and the integration is much more better how and we improved many activities if we are just also thinking on to see the synergies in between the Water Framework Directive and the Flood Directive as well. So I think and also the changing the informations, for example, conference and workshops as well, because we see other river basins suffering almost the same activities and fighting with the same things as well. And we see how can be solved, for example, from the how dealing with the Mekong River countries as well, with the climate change activities. I really think that we can learn from each other. But I think that the key is how to really implement those initiatives from other countries as well, because from like 100% we cannot copy and paste all of the informations and knowledge as well. So I think every occasion and unfortunately every emergency situations making us better a little bit. But it's more important to prepare ourselves and all of the knowledge and share all of the informations and many things. It's quite important, I think. So it's not easy to be prepared ourselves.
Okay, thanks, Laszlo. Wu Tieng, I'd like to pose a question to you. Which challenges do you face as a transboundary organization in disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation, and how do you address them?
Thank you very much for questions. So during implementation of MRC strategic plan and some action plan, we found that the more challenges for transboundary adaptation or reduction from disaster risk is the coordination, information sharing mechanism among the dam. So we have some dam in the Mekong tributaries, and also we have some dams on the Mekong main stream. So if the change of the climate change, like low rainfall or very heavy rainfall, the release water from each dam should be information should be linked, should be coordinated. So we found some challenges, especially we try to provide or propose some mechanism between the member country and the concerned organization are responsible for this activity, but still cannot provide properly information, and we cannot reach the good coordination for information sharing on this. And the second thing, especially in the lower Mekong Basin, the protection of water source is also most challenges, especially for the lower Mekong Basin part. Especially, we cannot manage the forest cover area that can protect watershed function. So especially the changing from forest cover area into the planting area is quite a lot, and we cannot manage. Of course, if we change some parts of the watershed area, can affect to the lower downstream area. So that is one transboundary issue, especially for when we face the heavy rain, the water flow out rapidly and not absorbed into the ground, so that it becomes the fast flood. So that is quite challenges. And also in terms of transboundary impacts, like harmful effects. So we still could not solve this problem. We try to create some funding. We try to solve the Mekong Fund, to have the Mekong Fund to solve some impact of from the transboundary impact, so that East Team formulate the case, the concept, and do the case study on that, but not we cannot achieve the final document or policy to create the Mekong Fund. In terms of the drought adaptation, although we provide some direction or some policy or activities to encourage member country to support the community where the impact from the drought, but in fact we found some water shortage in some area and cannot support to the community to adapt the risk from the droughts. And also we provide some information or some suggestion in terms of technical, especially for the irrigation guideline or irrigation user can adopt the more efficiently in terms of water use, are still not success. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I turn to Bob. Can transboundary cooperation benefit national processes in climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction, and how?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, especially in the case of Ghana, transboundary cooperation is key. At national level, we may not be able to address key challenges without, information from our transboundary, partners. So the first of it is, if you look at the main impact of transboundary issues in Ghana, is flooding and drought. And most of the flows come from upstream. The only way we can, model and then understand the nature and flow of the floods is to have information from upstream. And especially in the case of operations of dams upstream, we need such kind of information to be able to run the models and have early information to be able to reduce impacts of flooding. So this is key, and it is only transboundary cooperation that will facilitate that kind of data sharing. And the existence of the Volta Basin Authority has facilitated, in the case of Ghana, to obtain information that is necessary for this kind of exercise. So I would say yes, in the case of Ghana, without transboundary cooperation, we cannot do a lot internally as far as the Volta Basin is concerned, because the basins are interconnected and you cannot artificially divide the part of Ghana and model that. And that has been key in terms of minimizing the impacts of flooding for Ghana.
Thanks, Bob. And I'd like to do now straight away to the questions from the chat. And I would like to stay with you, Bob. The first question. Does Ghana have frameworks for data and information sharing with Burkina Faso and Togo? And what are the most challenging points that Ghana faced during the establishment of this commission?
Okay, so the first one first. I think, yes, we do have some form, I'm using the word carefully, we do have some form of mechanisms for data sharing between Burkina Faso and Togo. It is not as efficient as we would want because it is a form of a restricted kind of platform where only selective information is given, and we share data, in fact, metadatabase for the entire basin together, but we do not, share real database. The only way we can do that is when we establish joint projects, like in the case of Ghana and Togo, to mitigate flooding on the OT basin. In that case, we have data from Togo that is part of the model, and that is the only form of real data, sharing. With regards to Burkina Faso, it is a restricted form of data, and this is duly the operations of the dam. And within 3 months of the year, where normally flood peaks, are likely to occur, that is the only period within which we share this kind of information. So that is why I describe it as a restricted, form of sharing data. The challenges we have with the establishment of the commission is purely probably the mechanism in which the authority is supposed to be financed. Ghana is almost about 50% in terms of surface area of the Volta Basin. And because of that, the financing mechanism puts a lot of burden in terms of finances to Ghana. And we find it difficult to meet our obligations in terms of financing every year. And that creates some form of operational challenges for the authority. I think that is the main challenge, but there are also very positive, things arising from the setting up of the commission.
Thanks so much. I heard from the staff that we have 10 minutes, we can go 10 minutes over time, so let's make use of it, and then we can continue a bit with the questions we received. Laszlo, this is from a Moldova NGO Ecotiras, and they posed a question: how to combine the obvious harm caused by hydropower to river ecosystems, including on transboundary rivers, and the tendency of international organizations to recognize this energy as green? Nice question, but
yeah, exactly. It was written here somewhere, because I did not realize that one. Just focused on the other questions as well.
Yeah.
Can we go back? Just have some time.
Yes. Well, I come back to you. I'll ask you another question to another presenter, if that's okay. Or
okay.
If that helps you or not.
Maybe I can just I don't know, this was the next question, but yeah, it was also a question related to the expert exchange program. So I just collected those ones. But
okay, I just go through my screen. So
We have a question here.
yes, Armenia, yes.
Yes, we have a question on the floor. If we may, please.
Yeah.
We have a guest from Belgium.
Yeah.
Come on, the question is, the floor is yours. Please ask your question.
Thank you, Armine. Good afternoon. My name is Ivan Houten, focal point for Sendai from Belgium. First, thank you very much for these very interesting presentations. I have a question for the whole panel because you cover the whole geographical area. My question is, do you dispose of a transboundary early warning system? And if so, please, could you maybe go a little bit into detail of it and maybe also specify on which level it's organized? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yves.
So who of you can give floor on this question?
maybe it's
Okay.
Bob.
Yes, I believe, it was a bit, I didn't hear everything, but I guess if we propose a transboundary mechanism, for disaster management, if that was the question.
I mean,
the line was breaking. So
yeah. So
okay. Yeah, for sure. And I always speak from the perspective of Ghana, especially if you are a downstream country in a transboundary setting. The only option is to have a holistic transboundary mechanisms, to be effective, because you cannot do that as a single country. And we propose strongly to have transboundary mechanisms for minimizing or mitigating some of these impacts. And in which form should it take? I think there are different levels in terms of transboundary cooperation. We believe all of them are important, all levels. At the intergovernmental level, it's very important for policy and also for commitment of each country. And then also at the local basin level for effective implementation. So it is very difficult to really say which level is more effective, but we think we must have, all levels, as far as cooperation is concerned. Thank you.
thanks, Bob. Then we received a question about gender. What strategy is to involve women in water resource management, since in many countries the responsibility of collecting water falls to women and children, especially girls, and how to address gender-based violence. Is someone, Armenia, you want to take the floor on this one?
Yes, I would like to, because I have read that question and it was quite complicated one. In this question, we have several aspects. First of all, once we speak about the water resource management, it is of course, important issue to make it equal for everyone. And as all of the other spheres of life, the equality and the right to use the water is, it should be especially, I mean, it is the human right of every person, and the gender issue, of course, here is a cultural element, and we need to understand that in many cultures, it is really quite well mentioned that in many cultures, it is where they go to take water. If there is no flowing water in the houses, they go and gather water. That is mainly it is done by women and the children. But this is already the issue of awareness of support in the community level work, like awareness raising, not to leave anybody to harm or to. So I mean, this is more of a cultural element which needs to work like other social programs involving all of the society approach, the gender balance, the protection of children. So I think that there is more psychological work to be done, cultural work to be done there to increase the level of understanding and the approach in the society. And I am sure that in all countries and all of the strategies, they mention these points, and all of the governments, they emphasize these issues, but it is a cultural element if the society follows it or not. It is my own understanding, and I'm sorry if I didn't tackle the real core of the question that the person asking the question wanted to know. Still, it is an issue to think about. We can only raise awareness about this while talking, engaging into dialogue everywhere the society. Thank you. I think this is this much for me.
Thank you. And if I may add a few lines to this, I see also that it's also bringing my thinking on how the different SDGs are linked. You see the ambitions on the SDG for women, but it's quite related to water. And I think something we should discuss more coherently, or more in combination, because it's when we keep in the silos, we have a part solution, but I think this is also a societal issue, which brings the solution. So it's I hope also during the HRPF, when the SDG on women is discussed, we can also make these kind of links. Thank you. Then I have a question on the Mekong River. It's about data sharing.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
You only have 5 more minutes.
Yes. So I have this last question, and I'd like to use 2 minutes to respond, and I have 2-3 minutes to close and wrap up. Okay. The Mekong River Basin has a cooperative agreement. Does this agreement not cover data and information sharing in the basin?
Yes.
I hope you can answer briefly.
Yeah, Mekong River Commission, we have Mekong 95, Mekong Agreement. So it's cover the information sharing, especially for water information sharing, water use information sharing, the Article 6. But for the implementation, we face some difficulties, especially before sharing information. Of course, we can have some data and information approved by any member countries before sending to MRC Secretariat, so that after that we can share the information. We also have some content data and information in our database, but for the real-time information sharing, we still face some problem.
Okay.
Especially dam operation, dam release water when they stop or they operate, something is difficult to share information between them themselves.
Thank you for your answer. I think that's also the point on dams you made in your previous answer. So then I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to wrap up briefly. I have 3 minutes. It started with I think the aspect of better understanding risks. I think that's crucial for the work and in disaster risk reduction, but also to have an inclusive and collaborative governance, which is quite central. And the improvement needed on the financing in investments. And I think we could invest when we look to the future, how to find ways to make that easier, to let that work. And then the aspect of local cooperation, which was also the example of Ghana, by maybe of sub-basin level, look how you can cooperate to define projects, because there you get the energy, which also brings energy maybe also to the higher levels. And the call, which I heard from many of you, to create coherence between different agendas. Because we have maybe several frameworks in the UN, but in implementation, you do one thing, which can also help different aspects. So how to make this coherence that's all we can profit from. And there we had the examples of the Danube, how to do that in practice. The Mekong also, well, expresses also the difficulties, for instance, with information sharing, which is quite still a challenge, especially what you said on the release on water from the dams. So how to coordinate that, because that's something which maybe sound logic, but in practice is not so easy. And yeah, what I liked about from Ghana is what I said already before. Look how you can exchange experience and implement projects and show benefits of cooperation, because I think that's key in convincing also the authorities who have to pay for the funding, that they are really clear that this cooperation can deliver also the benefits, which is of course expected, but also foreseen. So thank you all for your active participation. Also thank the people who asked the question in the chat, and let's see if we can meet the next time with some new ideas and new discussions. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.